How many of you love to be submissive to other people? How many? Yeah, okay. It was kind of fun in Sunday school. I think it was last Sunday, with Caleb and Naomi and dealing with the whole idea of the Garden of Eden, the temptation. And, Caleb, you were there. And now, Caleb, this might not be too good, but Caleb did this great thing. So I have just one rule. I had all these little like Weebly, type of figures, like the play school figures all set up, and we had Mr. Potato Head. I think was that the tree of life? Okay, and I think we had something else as the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and there was one rule: you can't touch that. One rule, and immediately we just can't resist. If there's a rule, we are prone to go, wait a minute, no. That doesn't apply to me. How many times have other people, of course, done that with the speed limit? Oh, it doesn't apply to me. And they go, and then there's some rather colorful lights in your rear view mirror, and then someone comes up and knocks on your window and informs you that the rules do apply to you indeed, and you need to submit to them, or there is a whole other submission that you might not like. Christians in the first century were very, very much looked down upon. In the first century, Roman authorities and the general public largely viewed Christians with suspicion, labeling them as practitioners of a dangerous superstition. Initially confused with the Jewish sect, Christians were considered antisocial, disloyal, and atheistic for refusing to worship Roman gods or the emperor, leading to occasional persecutions such as occurred under that great calm leader, Nero. Atheism and disloyalty. By refusing to participate in the imperial cult, sacrificing to the emperor, and this was just a very easy thing. Once a year, you take a little pinch of incense, throw it in the fire, and say, Caesar is Lord. Well, of course, the Christians, they couldn't do that. So they would try to avoid this event altogether, and sometimes they couldn't. But because the Christians would not offer incense to the genius of Caesar, as they put it, Christians were seen as treasonous and potentially dangerous to the state's stability. I mean, after all, if we allow Christians to get away with this, well, pretty soon everyone's going to want to get away with this. Now, the Jews did not have to participate because they paid taxes, and the Romans knew that if the Jews had to do this, we have to kill them all. They wouldn't pay taxes. So the taxes were more important than the loyalty to Caesar in this point. They were viewed as having a vile superstition, antisocial behavior. Romans viewed Christianity as a superstitio. Somewhere the N disappeared. Do you see that? It was a non-sanctioned, irrational cult rather than a legitimate religion. Their refusal to attend public festivals and games was viewed as a hatred of the human race. So, we're not going to go to the gladiator games because we think it's really gross and evil to kill people to entertain the crowd. What a terrible thing. And the Roman reaction would be, how dare you not participate in our vile party? Rumors and misconceptions, because Christians met in secret, rumors spread that they were involved in scandalous rituals, including cannibalism, because we eat of the blood and the body of Christ. It's symbolic. The world didn't get that, so they thought they're sacrificing children and devouring them. They were also accused of incest because they got along so well with each other. They would refer to each other as brother and sister. And the Roman world looked at this and thought, that's really creepy. I wonder what they're really doing, what they're up to. So Christianity did not have a very good reception in the early Roman Empire. So picking up from last Sunday, Peter is writing, "Dear friends, I urge you, as foreigners and exiles, we are not from here anymore." I mean, we live here, but this is not where our home actually is. "Abstain from sinful desires, which wage war against your soul. Sin is never your friend. Live such good lives among the pagans that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us." We are to be the examples of what God can do in people's lives. We are supposed to be radically changed from the world around us. So we should be doing things that most people in the world just wouldn't do. And so by doing the things that God would have us to do, we prove people wrong about us. So for example, the Romans might think, those Christians, they're just terrible people. They're rebellious. Yeah, but they do pay their taxes. They're not tax cheats. But they do this. Yeah, but they help people. And so there was this contradiction within the Roman Empire and how they viewed believers. So by the great godly conduct, they would prove that the pagan world, and pagan, don't think of it as Norsemen coming down with big axes, but just unbelievers. They would prove the unbelievers wrong about their presuppositions about the Christians, about their misunderstandings, and the people would say, well, I guess they're okay. And as we see God coming in and changing their lives, well, maybe we should listen to what they have to say. We are supposed to live such good lives. And good here includes the quality of beauty. It's not so much a moral good, but it's the aesthetic good. Lead good, beautiful lives among the people that they might know the Lord. Now, here's where it gets really hard. That evil word submit again. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority. Oh, man, I don't want to do that. Whether to the emperor, Nero in this case, as the supreme authority, or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. For the Lord's sake. We don't do this because we're wimpy, whiny people. We do this, we submit to these authorities that we might testify about the Lord. In the mail this week, Steve, I think I emailed you a copy of that great elevator bill. Okay. We have a couple of lifts in our church building. One goes all the way to the basement, and one just comes up the stairs, so that people who struggle don't have to worry about this. And so we get this bill via email, of course, and it says that we owe $190 to register our lift because it falls under the classification of elevator. Wait a minute. The state never comes here. They don't even know that we have an elevator. We could just simply say, we took that out. We don't have it anymore. And we could save $190. We could send it to missionaries. We could do all kinds of great things with it. But we need to submit to this bill. Is it fair? I don't really think so. It's kind of interesting, and I hope nobody from the state is listening. No, okay, well, we're good. I have to make sure of that. I know Shirley Ann is listening, and she works for a bank, and I guess that's the closest to the state that we have. So it's good. But we could just say, no, we're not paying this. Forget it. And then somebody who's responsible to look at this in probably Lansing, Michigan. This is from the Bureau of Construction Codes. We're not building anything, okay, but it's from the Bureau of Construction Codes. And someone would pick this up and say, Strickland Baptist Church not paying their bill. I thought churches were supposed to pay their bills and do these kinds of things. And so they send us a second email, and we say, no, we're not paying that. What kind of a testimony is that about our faith in Christ when we don't do simply what we're supposed to do? So it says, submit yourselves to the Lord's sake. If we don't submit, then people might say, well, you're bad because you don't do what the government says you should do. Now, there are some things that we cannot do. Go back to the Roman culture. We could not be offering the little pinch of incense to Caesar. We just couldn't do it. To say Caesar is Lord, what a joke. Nero is Lord? Man, you're in terrible trouble if Nero is Lord. So we do this for the Lord's sake as we testify about who Christ is. We need to willingly place ourselves under governmental authorities, including the IRS. Some years ago, I knew a man who thought that he had constitutional and biblical reasons to say no one should have to pay income taxes. It's unconstitutional. And he fought this, and it went to courts. He ended up in jail. Why? Because he would not submit to the governing authorities. And so he didn't look like a Christian. He looked like a tax cheat. He looked like a con artist. What kind of a testimony is that? Wouldn't it have been better to simply pay the taxes that the government says that you owe? I don't think any of us enjoy paying taxes. If you do, great. You can pay mine. That's I'm all in favor of that. But we are commanded. This is a command. It's not a request, not a suggestion. Submit yourselves is in the imperative tense. So we need to willingly place ourselves underneath governmental authorities. Some of them are ridiculous. I mean, come on, there's some rules out there. They're crazy. Go along with it so that people might see that we are indeed believers. We do this for the Lord's sake. Does it honor the Lord for us to be seen as tax cheats? Well, no. But I'm going to take those taxes and I'm going to put them in the offering plate. No, pay the taxes. What if the authority cares nothing about the things of God and is actually quite evil and rotten? Oh, we don't have to submit to them because they're evil and rotten. We're dealing with Nero. We're dealing with imperial Rome, which is far worse than any governmental authority that we've ever seen in our entire lifetime and that we will ever see. At some point, study how gross and how evil and sinful those people were. I'm not even going to mention the things in this context. It's just so gross. Now, why do we do this? It is God's will that by doing good, again, the idea of beauty is in there as well, that by doing good, you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. John, you kind of mentioned that this morning. People, they're ignorant and they just come up with things. So we silence them by being good, by doing beautiful things in our society, even when nobody else will or they think it's dumb. People might say, these Christians are really bad, but they do help the poor and the infirmed. Christians would do crazy things in the Roman Empire. When a plague would come through and people were dying and people would leave those dying folks and they would exit the city and leave them behind. The Christians, they would go in and minister to them. And many of the Christians got those diseases and died. But they were a testimony to the people they went to minister to. They were a testimony to the culture at large that they did not fear death, but rather they wanted to minister to people who were dying to tell them about their Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So you might say, they're really bad, but they do some pretty good things. And they show respect for the Roman officials. They don't call them dirty, rotten names. They even rescue cast-out infants within this culture. This happened to a lot of baby girls. Okay, they were simply taken to the dump or just left out in the street for the animals to take care of. And the Christians would say, no, this is someone who is made in the image of God. And they would take these abandoned children and raise them as their own. And the dominant culture thought, that's terrible. We set those children out for a purpose, and once you lay them in the street, they're not yours anymore. The Christians would do these kinds of things. The world did not understand, and they hated the Christians because the Christians would do this. I mean, what a commentary it is. Okay, I lay this infant in the street because I don't care, and I walk away from it. And when someone else picks up the child and cares for it and loves that child, what a rebuke to me who laid the child there. Okay, it's a terrible commentary about me. They are saying by their good actions that I did something that was wrong and horrible. Well, I don't like that, so therefore I have to persecute them. The Christians did not recognize classes. To them, the slave was equal with a non-slave, the citizen with a non-citizen, the barbarian they were all equal. They were classless. Now, if you're part of the upper crust, how dare those Christians think that they're equal with us? After all, they're not even Roman citizens. We're Roman citizens. How dare they? And how dare they think that slaves are equal with their masters? That's terrible. What kind of people are those Christians? Well, the slaves thought they were pretty great. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover-up for evil. Live as God's slaves. Now, the term slave here is the Greek term doulos, which Scripture does not really ever deal with the kind of slavery that the United States and other countries back in the area of very, very dark, evil times. That wasn't the kind of slavery that was going on here. A lot of the slaves were more indentured servants. They could work their way to their freedom. They could buy their freedom. Very different than the chattel type of slavery that was existing here in this nation hundreds of years ago. I could say to the government, I'm a child of God. The government has no real authority over me because God is my authority. Well, that works really well until they show up at your door with handcuffs. We need rather to submit, and by our submission testify that God is indeed on the throne, that we're not going to be seen as rebels, we're not going to be seen as thieves and cheaters. We cannot say that you have no authority over me because God put those authorities over us. You can look in the book of Romans, it's very, very clear. Now, if you want to be great in God's kingdom, rather than standing up for your rights, what do? You give up your rights for the sake of others. Jesus, King of kings, Lord of lords, creator of heaven and earth, washed his disciples' feet in an agrarian society, which means that those feet had some excrement on them of various and sundry kinds because they wore sandals. That's why the lowest servant would wash the pooey feet. Okay? And Jesus did this. So if we want to be great, we submit ourselves. Jesus, in doing this, submitted himself to his disciples. His death on the cross, he submits himself to all of us. The idea of submission is not that I grovel underneath of you, but I value you more than I value myself. Jesus did this. Show proper respect to everyone. Again, Romans 13 talks about, God has set up the governments that exist. Just because he set them up doesn't mean they're doing the job the way they should do. But we should still respect them. Show proper respect to everyone. I find that the DMV here, the people are very, very, very nice. In Illinois, the DMV where we lived, they were notorious for being horrible. I mean, mean, grumpy, ornery, and just, they're cruel people. However, we needed to submit to them. Well, if you don't submit to them, you're not driving, so it just made sense. But if I were to sit there and argue with the people in the DMV, and I was in the community long enough where they knew who I was, if I'm going to argue with them, well, that's going to bring bad repute upon the church, upon the name of Christ. We're supposed to love the family of believers. And some of us need a little bit of extra loving than the others. Okay, if you know what I'm picking on all of us. Some of us are a little further on down that trail than others, but we love each other anyway. We love selflessly. I fear God. Well, I skipped that one over. Shame on me. Fear God. This is not, there's this idea of fearing. I feared my dad, but I loved him. And I feared him because he was the person, you didn't want to be in trouble with that. Okay, and I see Richard back there going, Now, I experienced that sometime. I experienced that. Oh, Naomi, no, your dad's a sweetheart. Come on. Okay, yeah, but, it's like dad was kind of the authority. You didn't want to be in trouble. So I was a little bit afraid of my dad, but I respected him immensely because of the quality of man that he was, the level of scientist that he was, his work ethic. So fear has this idea of, I'm a little afraid, but it's also this massive respect is built in. Honor the emperor. Reverential fear. There you go. Thank you, Richard. Honor the emperor. They were supposed to honor Nero. The guy was whacked out of his skull. Honor Nero? Yes. Now, this does not mean that you say, I think Nero is the greatest thing. Nero walks in, you stand up, you honor him. There might be politicians that you just think they are the worst thing ever. They walk in the room, you stand up, you honor them. Why? Because God says so. And if only for that reason, they have that position. Now, slaves, again, it's not the idea of the chattel slavery. The Greek word here literally means a house servant. Okay, they lived within the home. Many of these servants were indentured servants. They would sell themselves into bondage for a while until they worked off their slavery, until they paid some bills. Recall within the society, if you owed money, you could be put into a debtor's prison. So instead of having, let's say, Mr. Jones, I owe Mr. Jones $10,000, I haven't got it. He wants to throw me in debtor's prison. I say, hey, Mr. Jones, I got a better idea for you. Why don't I work for you for the next year and a half, 2 years? I'll work for you, and you don't pay me, and that'll pay off my bill. Well, that would work. Indentured servitude was part of this. Masters, they were the ones who were in total charge. The masters had pretty much free reign. Men in the society who were Roman citizens had massive rights to abuse other people. It was just built within the culture. So in this case, the master did have the opportunity to be cruel and to get away with it. As we look in our society, in our culture, employer-employee relationships, how many of you have worked for an employer that you didn't like working for? Almost universal. It doesn't matter. I have worked for people that I can't stand this person, but they're in charge. And they might give me an order. They might, say, oh, you have to do this. I don't want to do that. You're giving me the lowest level of work of anybody on this crew, and I've been here the longest. What do you think? No, you just obey. Why? Because I do not want a cruel boss to say, oh, I thought that guy was a Christian. Well, he's a slacker. I don't want to give him that opportunity. What I want him to think about is, okay, Hugo, I'm giving him the worst work in the world, and he just does it. And he almost does it like he's not doing it for me, but doing it for someone else. Huh. Well, let me test him again. Let me see how bad I can make it and see if he continues to hang on. Hey, I'm testifying for the gospel and the grace of Christ as I endure maybe very negative treatment from an employer. Slaves, in reverent fear, submit yourselves to your masters, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh, even those who are awful. Jesus did the exact same thing. I love it when he says to the disciples, don't you realize that right now I could call 10,000 angels, a legion of angels, who would just come down here and wipe all these people out? He only needs one, by the way. But I could call a legion of angels, and I could do this. But he submitted himself to illegitimate authorities because there was a higher purpose, was our redemption. So he submitted himself to the Sanhedrin. He submitted himself to Pilate. He submitted himself to crucifixion. Why? For our good, for our redemption, for our salvation. So Jesus did this. So it's not like God is saying, you have to do this, and he didn't experience this himself. Ephesians chapter 6. I'll just go there very, very quickly. You don't need to. Paul writes here. This is, again, Peter's writing. First Peter, of course, Paul is writing Ephesians, and he says, slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but like servants of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not men, because you know that the Lord will reward everyone for whatever good he does. Again, good has the idea of beauty. Whether he is slave or free, God will reward them. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there is no favoritism with him. So if there were believers who had servants like this, Paul is saying, watch out. Do not treat your servants like trash, because God is watching you. Treat them like trash. How is God going to treat you? You won't like it. It is commendable if someone bears up under the pain of unjust suffering because they're conscious of God. This pleases God. However, if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, it's commendable before God. Verse 20. Let's skip ahead here. Okay, verse 20. Oh, there we go. Pushing the buttons too fast. How is it your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? Okay, you're an employee. You do something bad, dumb, intentionally to hurt the company, and you get fired. How does that bring any honor to God? But if you are doing what you're supposed to do and you take the hits for it, for doing exactly what you should be doing, that is honoring to God. Okay? Doesn't mean it's easy. To this you are called because Christ suffered for you. He's the ultimate example of this, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, no deceit was found in his mouth, and yet what happened to him? Okay? He was beaten. He was tortured incredibly. He was sent to the cross. He was crucified. He died. The buried and risen again thing is the really cool part of that. Jesus is the ultimate example of enduring unjust suffering. The purpose of Christ-like endurance is to give an image of what God is like, what Christ is like, and the extent of his love for us and what Christ has done for us. When they hurled insults at him, he did not retaliate. If you've been in one of those situations where you've had a tyrannical boss, you want to give him a piece of your mind. Don't do it. Because Jesus did not retaliate. If anybody could have given people a piece of his mind, it was Jesus on the way to the cross and all the torturing that he endured. When he suffered, he made no threats. What did he say? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Rather than, Father, burn them to a crisp at this very moment. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the cross, that we might die to sin and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. Jesus gave the example. Now, a great evangelistic verse that's taking it a little bit out of context. Because Jesus did bear our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sin, might live to righteousness. Okay, that a great evangelistic verse. In the context, though, Peter is saying, you servants, you slaves who are under the gun, hang in there, because Jesus is the example. If he did this for you, then you can bear up for him. For you were like sheep going astray, now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. Who's in charge of you? Jesus, the good shepherd, okay? The whole 23rd Psalm thing, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He's in charge. He will take care of us. It might be difficult, but we're going to be taken care of by him. Now, here's where I can get into all kinds of trouble. Now, men, okay, you can take a break if you'd like to. Who's Peter talking to? The wives, not talking to you men. However, it is a man talking to the wives. So, men, if you want to tune out, but you can eavesdrop if you'd like. Now, key in here on the words "in the same way." Why were the slaves and servants supposed to submit? That they might testify about Christ and who he is. Wives, in the same way. Okay, do this. Why? The purpose is the same. Submit yourselves to your own husbands, if any of them do not believe the word, that they may be won over without words by the behavior, by the beauty of their wives. I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but in this culture, you have to recall that women did not have any rights whatsoever. They were deeply downtrodden upon. Christianity comes in and says, no. You are equal with your husbands. Okay, you're equal. And so this is a whole new thing to the faith. This is one of the reasons that the early Christians would be persecuted, because it's like, wait, you let your women do things? You respect them? What is that? So, what the husband should see, they should see the purity and reverence of your lives, the ones that are devoted to Christ. Your beauty should not come from outward adornment such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry and fine clothes. This is not saying that you should never do up your hair. It's not saying that you should not wear jewelry and you should not wear nice clothes. It's not saying that. What it's saying is, what do you want the focus of your beauty to be? Not the outward appearance. Okay. There was at one point in my life where maybe I was not bad looking. I don't know, and thought I was good looking. But now I'm old. It's like those things fade off. However, the beauty, the inner beauty of that gentle and quiet spirit, and I tell all my girls this: be beautiful, capital B. That's the message. It shouldn't. Your beauty should not come from the stuff you slap on. Your beauty should not come from Maybelline. Should not come from eyebrow pencils. It should come from that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. In a culture where women were demeaned, looked down upon as lesser than men in even existence, what is Peter saying? Ladies, if your men don't know Jesus, here's how to testify. Let them see the beauty of Christ coming out of you, not pasted on you. Okay, is following that? Does that make sense? If you want to wear mascara. It's okay. We probably need to see your face at some point. The 22 layers of makeup some people put on, not necessary. But why? Why do some women feel they need to do this? Because they have been taught that beauty is simply the outward appearance. And you have met some people who are really beautiful, but they're just wretched folks in and out. Yesterday, The ladies, man, down in the kitchen doing all the service stuff. You are all so beautiful. Oh man, it was just beautiful. Had nothing to do with how you looked, but it's that inner beauty that comes out. You serve, you sacrifice, you do this. It's beautiful. That's where the beauty should be coming from, and that's how to win unbelieving men. And you be consistent with this, because some men are just really hard-hearted and hard-headed. And it might take a lifetime for the beauty of the inner self to have influence. And maybe never, but that's the evangelistic strategy when you have a man who is harsh and he's not a believer. For this is the way the holy women of the past who put their hope in God used to adorn themselves. They submitted themselves to their own husbands, like Sarah, who obeyed Abraham and called him her Lord. Okay, again, ultimate respect. You are her daughters if you do what is right and do not give way to fear. So the beauty that men should appreciate, okay, in women is not like, wow, she looks so great. No. The beauty is, wow, I can't believe she's that loving, kind, and gracious. Wow. When I'm in the presence of such people, I feel the beauty of God. That's the kind of beauty that should be advertised, that should be exemplified. What's that thing? You can put lipstick on a pig. I think, is that one of those old sayings? You can put lipstick on a pig. And what is the rest of that? It's still a pig. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Richard. Yeah. Richard, the expert on old country communications. I mean, it is. And you can put all kinds of makeup on a woman who's just got this hard, ugly heart. Doesn't do a thing for her beauty. Okay. All right. Wives, you can tune out. Okay, because Peter's not talking to you. So wives, if you want to take a short break. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives. There is no dominance, okay, that is implied here at all. In the same way, be considerate. It was culturally unheard of for a man to be considerate toward his wife. Did not happen. Okay, woman, how come food isn't cooked? You know, just that whole thing of nasty dominance. In the same way, be considerate. And the word in the Greek here is as you live in the same home with. Okay, so be considerate. It only makes sense. Respect according to knowledge. Okay, so be considerate according to knowledge. Guys, think about this. Don't treat your wives badly, because you should be treating them as nicely as Jesus treats you. And Jesus treats us pretty nicely. Go to Ephesians chapter 5. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Where's the dominance in that? There isn't any. Husbands, be different than the dominant culture around you. Wives, be different than the dominant culture around you. Don't glamorize yourself. Okay, but be so radically changed by the person and work of Jesus Christ through his Spirit that there's this beauty that comes out of you that is, I mean, how do you bear such beauty of a woman of God? It's men, respect this. Think about it. Don't treat your wives badly. Use your brains for this. Oh, men and women are different. Okay, and women should be treated differently because, notice, treat them with respect as the weaker partner. Rhonda, who is stronger, you or your husband? Okay, and this is a general theme is that men are generally stronger than women. That's just the way we were made. And so when it says weaker, it's not, oh, they're just weak. No, they're physically weaker. So when something is heavy, needs to be taken off the high shelf, men, take it off the high shelf. We're stronger. Treat them with respect. Okay? If there's a menial task to do, did you know that men are capable of mopping floors? Unbelievable. I never knew that before. Yeah. Those who are watching can't see, but Rick goes, shh, don't tell anybody this. But we can do these things. If my wife is sick, who should vacuum the floors? Oh, I'll hire somebody in to do that. No, I can run a vacuum cleaner. Okay, but I need to respect her. I don't want Ann to be doing the really heavy manual labor. If anybody's going to be hurting, I want it to be me, not her. Why? Because I love her and I respect her. I'm going to treat her as the weaker partner. Notice the word partner. Very, very important. Continue. And as heirs, as co-heirs, so that your wife is an equal heir with you before God. Not a lesser heir. An equal heir. So the whole thing here, men, treat your wives as your equals. Now, they're, maybe a little bit weaker. So if you got to pick up, the 50-pound feed sack or something, okay, men, do this. Now, some of you ladies, I know that you can, okay, but, men, we're supposed to be doing this. Why? Because it's being kind to them. Does not Jesus carry my burdens, so should I not carry the burdens of my wife and my family as well? And even emotional burdens. They're heirs with you of the gracious gift of life. Respect. Women are weaker, okay, so we should compensate for that in their behalf and not say, oh, honey, you're such a weak little weakling. Oh, I better do that for you. No, don't even mention it. Just come alongside and carry that burden. Partner. As heirs with us of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers, which means, men, if we're not doing this in regard to our wives, God is not going to listen to us. So if you think of, hey, I've been praying about things, and it's like God isn't listening. How are you treating your wife? Figure this out. Now, there's a category of people that are not mentioned here, and those are people who are unmarried, or widows even. It is important to note that Peter does not address these categories because celibacy in the Roman Empire was not a legal state. If you were a woman of marriageable age, you got married. Men were not single. So the idea of Rome, we need to have lots of babies, okay, because we need to grow up soldiers to fight in our wars, and we need to have women to carry more soldiers to fight in our wars. It was just a really important part of the empire. So celibacy was not a legal state for the Roman Empire. So that's why those groups are not addressed. However, the whole principle of submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ, here it is. Finally, all of you, be like-minded, be sympathetic, love one another, be compassionate and humble. Oh, they deserve that. No, they don't. You deserve to be in the lake of fire, okay? So come alongside them and help them. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. Oh, we love to do that. We love to make sure somebody else gets their comeuppance. I don't even know what that word means, comeuppance, but it sounds good. On the contrary, repay evil with blessing. So if my boss treats me like I'm an idiot, I need to work hard for him and bless him with the efforts of my labor? Yes. Why? Because this is how I testify to the grace of God, because I never want my boss to be able to say, oh, I thought Christians were different than that. With his husbands and wives, with husbands who are unbelievers. And the wife is just snitty all the time because the husband's a bear and a jerk. And it's like, honey, I thought you were a Christian. I thought Christians were more like Jesus. Well, you're not like that. You see the idea? We do this to testify about who Jesus is in our hearts and our lives. Philippians chapter 2, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. This is what we must do. So again, in the kitchen. Who was in charge in the kitchen yesterday? Who was in charge? Lorraine. Yes. What a wonderful job. I mean, she's awesome. Okay? And every one of us in the kitchen, we were submissive because she's in charge there. So we all submit to her. Okay? Who's in charge of the sound booth? David. Yeah, yeah. Right now, Ron, and the mic suddenly drops off. I guess Ron's in charge. Okay. But David's in charge. He set this up. There are things back there which he explains to me of like how things are wired in. I'm thinking, man, you're awesome. Okay. If I want something changed on the soundboard, I ask David if it's okay. Okay, because he knows, he listens, he's in charge of that. Okay. If David said, I don't want you to use this mic anymore, use this one. Okay. Why? He's in charge. Do I submit to him? Of course. So we are working to submit to each other all the time in any and every situation. Do I submit to my wife on household things? Yes. Does she submit to me? Yes. Because we are co-heirs in this thing of working to honor Christ. Okay? So this is what we're supposed to be doing. So submission. Submit. Don't say, I deserve better. No, you don't. I'm in charge. Well, then do it alone by yourself. You go right ahead. Have a good time. Okay, for example, the way the tables are set up downstairs. Okay, if Lorraine had said, I don't like them like that, I want them grouped differently, they would have been grouped differently. Why? Because, I kind of set that stuff up because I'm going to operate in submission to what Lorraine thinks. Why? Because she's in charge. Okay, I said, okay. And then at the end of the day, you know what? People eat a meal. They go away happy and full. It's all good. But we submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Because this shows that because Christ was submissive for us to the cross, to his death on the cross, he calls me to be submissive to other people as well. Does that make sense? We should be known as submissive people, not doormats, but rather submissive people. 4, whoever would love life and see good days must keep their tongue from evil, their lips from deceitful speech. Never, ever trash talk your spouse to anyone. Never, ever, ever, ever. Don't trash talk people to anyone because that is a complete lack of submission to them. It's just an evil thing to do. So when it says you must guard your tongue from evil and their lips from deceitful speech, don't do it. And when you do this, make sure you repent of it instantly. Okay? They must turn from evil and do good. Again, the idea of beauty. They must seek peace and pursue it rather than conflict. Oh, I'm going to give that guy a piece of my mind. No. We seek peace and we chase it. We pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous. His ears are attentive to their prayer, men. Okay? For the face of the Lord, but the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. So what kind of people are we going to be in foreign territory? We're going to be people who submit for the sake of Christ, for the sake of our testimony to Christ. That is our strongest testimony. I want people to say, man, that Hugo guy, he's sure cooperative. How come? And so I can say, because Christ died for me on the cross. So therefore, I'm going to live the way he wants me to. And he wants me to live like this. Not to be this nasty person running around being vicious and mean to other people. Reaching a lost world. Wow, I needed to proofread. The computer's making mistakes. This is going to be, sword. Yeah, okay, it should be word. Thank you. Oh, the word and the S are really close together. My bad. Yeah, word and life both profess. Our words and what we do with our lives both profess.